Welcome to another Perspectives podcast. It's Josue here. As most of you guys probably already know, I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Shout out to Oral Roberts University. That's where I went to school. Shout out to everybody from there. Some people say I'm a speaker, preacher. I'm not sure, but we'll see. I love Jesus. And we have Chase here. Chase is a fellow Texan. He went to University of North Texas. He's What's that first word? Is it
aspiring?
Aspiring. I almost said describing. He's an aspiring philanthropic creative. He loves riding bikes, taking long walks.
No. I'm not Montelfish.
Okay, that's a different person. But Mr. Chase Brown, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man.
Yeah,
it's been a busy week so far.
Man,
you and I have both been busy over the last week or so, but things are good, man.
Can you believe it's almost August?
Dude, I was literally having a meeting with my director today talking about that because like our busy season at work is like October until December. So it's basically already here. And I'm just freaking out and I'm just like, we'll see how this goes. But how are you, man?
Man, I'm good, man. It's starting to kind of rain a little bit, which I wasn't expecting. But for me, October means birthday month, so I'm excited.
Hey, your birthday month is August, though. So chill.
Did I say October?
Yeah, you said October.
Sorry,
that's
August.
my birthday month.
Yeah, that's yours.
Hey, it's okay. We just flipped it around.
Right?
23rd.
23rd.
Almost
it's my mom's birthday. I was close. But enough about us. As you guys already know, whenever we get on this podcast, we always bring you on a special guest for you guys. And today we have a legend with us. Mm-hmm. She refers to herself as a Afro-Latina. I'll let her explain that. Miss Stephania Zorilla herself is in the building. How are you doing?
I am doing lovely. How are you, Butterman?
I'm good. I'm here. A lot of people don't know that name, so maybe we'll talk about that later.
Slowly introducing them.
Yeah, we're slowly introducing them into everything. But yeah, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for having me. This is amazing. I'm excited.
Yeah, we think this will be a really good conversation, kind of going off of Peniel's, like that conversation we had with Peniel, and just talking about culture, talking about what we can learn from each other, talking about our individual perspectives, and from there, like how to just grow ours to have just hopefully a more heavenly perspective.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be a good conversation. But yeah, just to start out, you want to share anything about yourself, just as Josue always says, where your people are from,
let us know.
and anything like that.
Yeah, definitely. So yes, I am Stephania.
Yes.
And of course, I am Colombian. So Colombia with an O, not a U.
Not a U. That's very important.
Yeah, it's very important. That is a pet peeve for us Colombians to spell it with a U. So definitely that. I am Afro-Latina, correct.
Okay.
So
what does that mean exactly?
So that does mean I am African descent. So I do carry African blood within me.
Okay.
So I'm Latina and Black, so Afro-Latina.
Okay.
So that's pretty dope. But yes, I am currently in school, finishing up my bachelor's, getting my degree in Christian ministries.
Yeah.
I love people. I love Jesus. And currently working in the healthcare field. So yes.
I mean, for people that might not know, I mean, I'm not sure, but I heard you low-key also kind of preach, but I could be wrong. Is this a true statement, or where are you at in all this?
Yes, it's definitely a true statement.
Okay, woman of God, all right, awesome.
A woman of God.
Awesome, yeah.
Yes, it is a true statement. So I do love to teach God's word.
Yeah.
That is definitely one of my gifts.
That's
so
awesome.
Let's see where the Lord takes me.
Yeah.
In the future. So, yeah.
That's usually how it goes. But just to kind of get us started, I know you talked about Colombia with a no, and that's very important to everybody that's listening.
Most definitely.
Tell us a little bit about your story in terms of when did your family migrate here? Were there any conditions that caused you guys to want to come here, or what was that like for you guys?
Yeah, so I came here with my family when I was 5 years old. So that was 21 years ago. My parents they were going through a divorce. And then also there was a lot of violence in my city as well. So my mom wanted us to grow in a more stable environment and more opportunity for us just here in the United States.
Yeah.
So we chose to, well, obviously I didn't choose to, I was 5.
Really
so I
have a
can't
part
say
in
we
that.
chose to.
Yeah.
But, the family chose to migrate to the United States.
Okay.
Yeah. And then where did y'all end up settling at first here?
So Arlington, Texas.
Hey.
I rep the Ag Town.
There we go.
For sure. So
Yeah.
we lived in Arlington. Goodness, it was, I'd say 15 or 18 years. And then we moved to Fort Worth. So I've been in Texas all my life. I always say Colombian born, Texas raised.
There we go. Thank you.
I literally saw a shirt about that, but anyways.
I need that. I need that.
Hey, man, it's that Texas pride.
No, I get it.
for sure.
I get it. I completely understand.
Dang, that's awesome. And so maybe from a young age, because I'm sure moving here at a young age, you probably weren't exactly sure what was going on and everything that was happening. Because, whenever we're kids, we're kids. And so what was that experience like to go through as a child to go from a place that to a place that's potentially like just completely different in terms of like lifestyle, society, language, just everything.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
It was definitely very different, and it was hard, as a child, definitely, because I do have a lot of memories about that. I did not speak any English. So I took ESL in elementary. So I remember sitting down with my ESL teacher, and she would have pictures, and it would be like an ambulance or a cat. And she would be like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Ambulance." And I would have to say the words. And if I didn't know it, we would have to go through it like, "Hey, this is what it is." So English, I picked it up real fast. But just the food. Oh gosh. I'm like thinking, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, the food.
Yeah.
That is one that I for sure clashed with. Because I remember growing up, my mom has always been, and she still is till this day, she cooks daily fresh food. And I remember eating cafeteria food, and I'm like, I don't want these burgers. I don't want these nuggets. This is disgusting. What is this?
Yeah.
And my family would be like, Steph, you have to eat lunch. And I'm like, this is gross. I would sit at the table literally and cry because I did not want to eat the burger.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can completely relate to that, because I pretty much went through the same thing where it's you're in school and they gave you you guys remember the milk cartons and the cereal and just different things like that, and then you go home and just a different experience. But just to kind of go on that even more, so how was it for you in terms of, like I shared last time, I had a moment where my brother and I, we went outside to try to play with some of the kids that were out there, but they were speaking English and we couldn't speak English at the time, and they were laughing. Who knows what they were laughing about? They probably watched a funny show. Maybe somebody made a joke about something, but I internalized it to feel like, oh, they're laughing at me because I was a kid. You just internalize everything. So how was that experience of like trying to learn English and
Form friendships
and get in the culture and all that?
Well, I do recall being at the playground. I would play with the children, but the thing is, when we moved to Arlington, we moved to a very Hispanic area. So a lot of the kids that I grew up with in elementary or was around with in the playground spoke Spanish. So I would speak Spanish, but I do remember, and I had an incident one day where I was at the library, and I've always loved to read, and I was checking out some books. And I guess the librarian she asked me a question, and obviously I didn't understand English. So my response to every question or anything my teachers told me was always, yes, yes. And she asked me a question, and I had all these books in my hand, and I said, yes. And then all I remember is all these teachers came in, my mom was called, and I'm just like, what happened? So I'm telling my mom, I don't know, she asked me a question, all I said was yes. And then the librarian, they translated to my mom that they had asked me if I had stolen a book. So I was like, no. Wow. So then my mom was like, she does not speak English. But you know what? The fact that I even remember that, because it was so scary. And I do recall that I felt so frustrated because I couldn't speak the language. And I'm a child, and I'm like, I'm just trying to check out these books, and now I'm in trouble. Like, what did I do? But it was very frustrating as a child to not be able to understand or fully converse with my classmates, because all my friends, the ones that I did have, were Spanish speaking. So, but even with the teachers, that was different as well. Some things would be sometimes misinterpreted. And so it was frustrating. It was
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, and I know from like psychology, one of the most important times of socialization for kids is anywhere from 3 to 7 or 8, like something in that range. Because especially for here in America, because it's like you go to school for the first time whenever you're, I don't know if it's 5 or 6, I can't remember, but you go to school, before then you maybe have played like kids sports or gone to daycare, something like that. You have a little bit of understanding of what proper behavior is like in a social setting. But from there, like that's one of the biggest parts of school, like is understanding how to just conduct yourself as a
Right.
as a kid and as a person. But then from there, I'm sure something else that was a struggle at the start was then having this trust relationship with like people who are supposed to be authority figures, maybe in a way, because you felt like they didn't really understand you. Because
Yeah.
like I have an aunt who teaches ESL at a school district with mainly, I think it's mainly Middle Eastern children is who she works with. And she just says how occasionally there's difficulties with them trusting her whenever she's saying something that like she knows is going to be for their benefit, like whether it's, hey, learn English so that hopefully life can be a little bit easier for you here. Don't always eat pizza because it's unhealthy and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We gotta learn that the hard way. Yeah.
and things like that. And so I'm sure it was definitely kind of, as you're alluding to, definitely difficult around that time to one, grasp everything that's going on, because I mean you're a kid, don't understand the language, everything like that. But then from there, like those people that you trust, like even your parents, they're trying to learn things as you're trying to learn things, to whereas people who have been here for a little bit, they're mainly able to just spend time teaching their kids rather than having to spend time on both ends of that. And so I mean, one, I guess, bravo to parents of people who immigrate here, because
Shout
that's
out
Oh
to them.
yeah, for
amazing.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so maybe from there, like as you kind of go through school and start to learn the language and everything like that, like, and maybe this is where church came into play, I don't know, but how did that kind of look like as you're able to maybe feel more comfortable in society and around friends and everything like that?
Well, definitely English was very, I would say within just a year of being in school, I was able to, grab a hold of it and start speaking it fluently. We actually were, I do recall, and I'm trying to go back and remember, because gosh, that was some years ago. But I do recall we eventually ended up moving, actually, I think it was about maybe 3 years later, into, that is the south part of Arlington. So we did go into a new elementary school, and then obviously junior high and high school. And the transition itself wasn't so hard, because something that my mom has always been big about, and I thank her for it, is she would always tell me, although you live in America, you are Colombian, and remember your roots, remember your culture, remember where we come from. So sometimes I would come home with, let's say, American sayings or way of acting, and she would be quick to stop me and say, ma'am, you are not American, you are Colombian. And she has always been quick to remind me of that. And I'm grateful for that, because so a lot of people don't know this, but during winter break, I would actually be in school at home. My mom would take out all Spanish books and we would sit down, and she would practice me writing in Spanish, me reading in Spanish, and she would be, hey, repeat that, rewrite that. Just so she wanted to make sure that we did not forget how to speak it, how to talk it, and overall just our culture. So the transition itself wasn't so hard, because I still had that instilled within me. And I feel that where I kind of didn't fully, it was kind of, I'll be honest, an identity crash for me, was whenever I started junior high, because I did not look Latina for the Hispanics. And so I hung out with my Black friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it was always like, well, shoot, like later on in the years, I was like, well, what am I? Because my Hispanic friends, like Hispanics, it's like, I wouldn't hang out with them because I wasn't Hispanic looking or Hispanic enough. So that's where I was like, well, where do I fit in this country around the people? So that's where I guess the transition a little bit, just coming along the years, was a little hard for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even just to, I'm glad that you brought it up to the junior high, because I remembered actually when I was in junior high, one of my teachers, she she got mad at me because she would talk to me and I wouldn't make eye contact with her, right? Like where I'm from, like you just, and she thought I was so disrespectful. I'm like, ma'am, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I just not used to this whole making eye contact thing. And so for me, that was strange because this lady's like upset because she thinks I'm trying to be rude. And for me, I'm like, I don't know any better. Like, I'm not used to just making eye contact with you,
Well,
right?
and then I know I know Congo culture is different than Ugandan culture, but I know in Ugandan culture from my buddy Joel, like he says, if you stare like an elder like directly in the eyes, like that's offensive because you don't see them as necessarily like, it's not a sign of respect. Like we see that here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, so it was super weird for me. I was like, lady, why are you bad? Like, I guess ever since then I started staring people in their eyes. But to kind of get more into that identity crisis, how did you deal with those moments where you're learning new things about this culture, but then you get home, but your parents are like, ma'am, like how do you deal with both of those two things?
Oh, goodness. That is an amazing question.
I know. I was joking. We'll edit it out. I'm joking.
You're digging deeper.
Yeah, keep going.
So it's good because why do I say that? Because this year, I will be honest, that question came back up for me. And I will say it's just with everything that's taken place within America with police brutality and racism, it had me question, who are you? It had me question of, are you Latina? Are you Black? Can you speak up? Like, I had a whole identity question. And I said, wait a minute, and I didn't realize that was actually something that I hadn't fully dealt with for these last few years.
Right.
And if we go all the way back, and when I went all the way back into junior high, high school, I never dealt with it. I was just always like, oh, I'm Colombian, That was it. I'm Colombian. Until this year, that identity question, the Lord has really, really dug deep into my heart with that. And first and foremost, of course, before anything, I am a child of God and I am His creation. But I love, this is the culture, my features, everything. And He had to really, I've had to sit with Him and actually be like, well, Lord, reveal to me, show me, where this is something that I hadn't never fully dealt with. So that is a great question. And that's why I'm like, oh, because I'm walking through that. I will be honest. That is something that I'm definitely still walking through with God. But it's a great journey for sure, because it's definitely embracing all of me and all of who He has called me and designed me to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's something that is potentially like a lifelong journey of understanding identity and understanding the fullness of who God made you to be. And then from there, understanding how to properly be obedient to that in understanding of who the Father is and who Jesus is. And Joshua, I know you talked about it a little bit on the last conversation in terms of understanding how to balance out all these the identities that are inside of you, the different cultures, and understanding and the home is Congo. Outside of America, or outside of the home is America. So, I mean, what did you do with some of that?
Yeah, I mean, geez, that's a great question. Everybody's asking great questions.
Putting you on the spot.
I know, right? I didn't prepare for this. No, I'm joking. No, I mean, I think, and so the concept behind that was we looked at it like the embassies in each country. When you walk into an embassy, you're in another country, right?
Yeah.
The Colombian embassy in America, you're in Colombia. Once you walk in, once you leave, you're back in America. So that's kind of the concept. So for us, it was just, I think for me, what happened was because of that experience that I shared earlier with the kids who I felt in a sense rejected me, I felt like I really dove in the American culture to try to really fit in, It was almost like something that I used to fit in, even though similar to you, where I grew up around a lot of Congolese people. There was a huge Congolese community in the DFW area. And so it was a weird balance of not only myself, but the other kids that I grew up with, all of us trying to deal with this concept of at school, you're this African kid, right? At home, you're this American kid now, right? Because like at a young age, you have your siblings like, oh, you're so American now. You're like, what? Just because the way you talk, the way you think is starting to change, especially at a young age. Things around you are forming you a lot more. And so it's something that you really got to deal with, because over here, you're African. At home, you're American. And so there's just challenges there. I don't know. I feel like for me, it was time. Probably time helped me come to a place of like being able to balance the two. Because I know if I am to go to Congo today, they'll be like, oh, you're American.
Oh, yeah.
Even though you have our name, so.
Yeah. And I think it's something that at some sort of level, probably more of a microcosm than what y'all experienced. I think that's something that almost every kid or generation kind of goes through, because if you think about it, like not all like your family doesn't say that everything that the culture says is okay. Like I think that's true in very rare instances. And so like for me, for example, growing up like in the like since the 60s and 70s with like the Summer of Love and like the free sex movement and everything like that, our culture has kind of said like, it's okay to sleep around, stuff like that. But for me and my parents, like, and my family, it was kind of like, nah, like you ain't doing that. Like, and so even from there, like that's in a sense, like understanding like the Brown family culture is different than American culture. But I think that's something that there's another level added to that whenever you bring in like family culture, Colombian culture, Congolese culture, and then American culture. And I mean, I'll say like, I love what you said in terms of like you rooting that in your identity in Christ and the Father. And then from there, walking through that journey with him so that he is able to then tell you who you are. Correct. Rather than letting one culture or the other tell you who you are. Exactly. And allowing the word to kind of navigate that like crisis or identity crisis and things like that. Right. Because I think it's something that not very many people do that. Yeah. I think they kind of figure out who they are. And then from there, like, all right, I'll go to church, things like that. And from there, I mean, I think as well, I know KB talks about this in one of his songs, but it's something where even we see in Jesus, like he is above all of these like categories that we really have set. Like he's a Middle Eastern Jew who was like our Messiah and something, and born in Bethlehem, and something that's just like nothing good ever comes out of Bethlehem. Yeah. And so even categorically from there, like he's against the culture. And so I think it's a great opportunity. This experience is a great opportunity for y'all to have this, to be able to go into raising y'all's kids and being like, hey, you aren't like American culture, Congolese culture, Colombian culture isn't like mutually exclusive. You aren't one or the other. You can be a mixture of them. But before then, like as Reward says, like you're a citizen of like the kingdom. Correct. And that should inform everything else, and not falling into this, like, I think it's going into like the temptation of like conforming to the world and things like that.
Correct.
And so, I mean, I think this will provide a lot of value to y'all, like as you move forward in life and things like that.
Oh yeah, most def.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree because I see it with like my nieces and nephews in a sense, like how my siblings raised them, you know, even though they were born in America, but they're still considered African. So just kind of having both of those things, and as well as being raised with Christian foundations and different things like that, and kind of letting that be a priority in their life. So it's interesting being able to see all those things at work, right, in an individual. You know, I think that's kind of what makes people so unique, because I could see you and I'm like, okay, I don't know what. Like if I don't know you're a believer, right, I'm trying to look at the outside and trying to figure out like where you're from. You know, I think that's why I was asked that. But just to kind of go back to, you know, coming to America and understanding. So, but you came here at a very young age. You said you were 5, I believe?
Correct.
Did you have any, I guess, almost like expectation of, you know, what to expect here in America in terms of just like life in America?
Yeah.
Because I came here at 9, so I was more, maybe a little bit more aware.
Correct.
Yeah, or something as well, because I know that you talked about you went back to Colombia or like traveled back there, and so maybe even from then, like either from your childhood or from the people you spoke to there, like what was the perception of America like, either with your friends down there or yourself as a child?
Yeah. So as a child, I don't recall having much expectation. I was excited because we're moving to a whole new country. But that's all I can remember is just the excitement, and to see family, of course, because my mother's mom and my aunt lived out here. So that was exciting. But going back to Colombia, I actually went back last year in April. The perspective is very different. So it's just in a sense of America is the easy life. Like in the sense of, if I live in America, I'm quote unquote rich. And no. I'm like, no. So definitely it is viewed upon as that in my country, that if you move to America or you live in America, you are completely well off, which, do not get me wrong. We do have definitely a lot of opportunity here in the United States. And I feel like we have access to technology, brands, everything much easier than, of course, in other countries.
Right.
And so out there, you know, I can walk with, you know, I have my iPhone, I'll have a bag or whatever the case may be. And it's a luxury, a huge luxury out there. So it's seemed upon as, oh my goodness, opportunity. Oh my goodness, you're rich. Like, you are completely well off. So that is the perspective that is viewed in my country, just from having conversations with, of course, family. And it's just, from what I've had or I've heard from family members, it's just such a huge dream to make it to the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that because I feel like it's the exact same way for us. You know, it's like you come here and then you may have some family members from back home that just assume life is just easy, that people don't work 60 hours a week, or, you know, that money just kind of just falling on trees, you know. So in a sense, you know, they want a helping hand and you want to help, you know, your family members from back home. But at the same time, you got to deal with Sally Mae. You got to deal with the bank. Going to take your
Uncle Sam.
You got to deal with mortgage. You got to deal with all these different things. Yep. But those things aren't taken into account because it's just like, you're in America. You quote unquote made it. Correct. You have finances now. Help.
Well, I think it's just they look at, in a way, the income rather than the expenses. Because I mean, that's something that if we looked, for example, over at like Norway or Switzerland, like we're kind of like, oh, they make a lot of money, like they're wealthy over there. But then you look at the standard of living and the cost of living, it's just like, dang, like I mean, it's like $18 for like a Big Mac and like fries over there, dude. Like
can't be me.
It's insane. Like I bought like 10 chicken wings at the bar that we were doing outreach at for like $25.
That can't be me.
And I'm just like, all right, no, like thank God we don't have this back at home. And so I mean, again, I mean, that's just something that is a result of each one of us like having limited perspectives, and the people who are back there like not understanding, like, I don't want to say that us as Americans are the hardest workers in the world, because I think there's a lot of different types of work, and the schedule of work and things like that is different across the world. But I do think we place potentially like emphasis on work in terms of money and success, and striving to earn what you want and things like that. Now, like, do we reach that with perfection? Like, no, because I mean, that's something that, like, as everyone says in the business world, it's all who you know and things like that, which is the case. And so I think it's interesting to see like the positives and negatives of like both sides of it, and kind of going from there. And so potentially then from there, like, what was, as you finish high school, did you go to college? Or did you go to college at?
I actually go to the King's University.
Hey,
TKU.
Shout out Kings.
Shout out to the
Yes,
Kings.
shout out to the Kings.
Yeah.
And so as you've gone through college, as you've started to work and things like that, how can I phrase this? I don't want to say like how has your family reacted to you working and things like that, but what is some of the things that maybe, because obviously your parents work as well. And so what has been some of the things that maybe y'all have learned in terms of working in the US that perhaps your parents had in your childhood said was a little bit different, or it's just something you had to learn along the way as you started working, if there's anything? Like maybe for example, like, I think one of the common myths in like the workforce is like, just put in your 40 hours and you're good. Whenever really it's like, nah, you got to put in like 50 and your commute to be able to succeed and things like that. As well, understanding like the power of savings with 401k. Then from there, understanding like network is everything rather than purely like meritocracy, things like that. And then from there, even like the roles and the jobs that you take. Because from there, like one of them probably whenever I was growing up was like, oh, be a engineer or be a doctor or be a lawyer, were like some of the big things, and like maybe accountant and finance broker, things like that. But now it's just like, all right, like you need to know how to code. You like some of those like misconceptions for things that you thought were good jobs, but now it's just kind of like things have changed a little bit, and those people who are outside of America like don't really understand where the job opportunities are, and like just kind of some things like that.
Yeah, I will say definitely. That's a good question, because I'm over here thinking. Definitely something that my family and I have appreciated a lot about America has been the opportunity. There's many opportunities here in the United States, and something that and my mom and I were talking about this, that within America, what we love about the culture, one of the things is the fact that I can say, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to go sell these amazing water bottles that I have created, and they are going to be pink with whatever the case may be.
Yep.
But what we love about the culture here is we're cheered on. It's like, girl, you go do that and you go do it amazing. And oh my goodness, you're going to sell water bottles? Go for it. As for in our country, you tell somebody that and they're like, go get a serious job. Like our dreams here, I feel as an immigrant, were believed in. In our country, oh, hey, I want to pursue, let's say, it's just an example, photography full time. And just, I don't want to go to college anymore. I want to pursue photography. I feel that I can become an entrepreneur through this. Oh my goodness.
Talk about
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that for sure, that is something that my mom and I were discussing, just the many opportunities here. Because even when we got here, so my parents were actually, my dad was an engineer in Colombia, my mom was a director within a hospital. And coming here, it was difficult because they did not know English. And they had to, I think is it the word translate? I don't know how to their degrees into English and then see if
Yeah.
like they need any license here or whatever the case may be. So my parents worked about 3 jobs each, and it was something new for them. But the fact that they were here as immigrants, there was jobs lined up for them, whether it was at Target, whether it was at Walmart, whatever the case may have been, there was opportunity. And that's something that we've definitely appreciated, and also the work ethic. So, hey, like we need to be here at 8 a.m. We're starting at 8 a.m. It's at 8 a.m. So that's something that we appreciate so much about the American culture as well as the work ethic.
Yeah. It's interesting because that point that you made, like in our household, talking about you want to go to college to do photography. What? Like that's not something you do. Like you better be a lawyer or an engineer or something. But to even just to kind of add on to what you were talking about in terms of your parents, being immigrants and having to work 3 jobs, and a lot of people whose parents are immigrants in this country, they're familiar with those kinds of stories. So can you just kind of get into more of that sacrifice that our parents have to make in order to make it work here in America? Because they're giving up their dreams and all those things. They come to this country, they don't have a dream that they can do this, that, and the other. Like, hey, I'm gonna work, I'm gonna provide for my kids, and that's gonna be better, right? And I have a follow-up question I'm gonna ask after that, but I'm gonna let you answer that.
Okay, definitely. That is an amazing question. Because you know what? I am so grateful for my parents. Obviously, many things, but their sacrifice to move to a whole new foreign land and not knowing the language was just something that I completely admire. And I say that I am obviously getting my degree and going to school because that's a desire of mine. And I feel that the Lord definitely has guided me through that path. But one of the main reasons has been because I feel that my parents did not come to this country for nothing. And they came to this country for their children to have more opportunity, to have a better life, to give them a better life than what we saw in our country. And I want to make them proud in that area. So definitely that's something that is really dear to my heart.
Yeah.
Because I saw the sacrifice of my mom working 3 jobs. I saw the sacrifice of my dad working 2 jobs, and the humbling, if that's a word, humbling.
We'll make it a new word.
Make it a new word.
Yeah.
That it took for them to leave the luxuries behind, to leave the titles behind, and come work in a grocery store, and to provide for their children.
Right.
And so that is something that I wholeheartedly admire about my parents and about any immigrant parent, because it's not easy. It's definitely not. And I love them about that because it just says so much of just their love and towards us and their sacrifice,
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Your follow-up question?
Yeah, my follow-up question. I almost forgot it as you were talking on my note. Remember. And just my follow-up question, because in our culture, in a sense, the parent to children relationship, it's one of whenever you get older, you take care of your parents in that aspect. And I know for some people that doesn't really make sense, right? Because you have retirement, you have all these different things, but what some people don't understand is some of our parents don't have 401ks and things like that. So the responsibility in a sense goes back to the children to be able to help and provide for your parents. And so there's like a shift that happens later on in life. So I don't know if you want to speak on that a little bit.
Oh, you are digging deep today, Butterman.
I can relate to this one. So
Goodness, that is a great question. So yes, definitely. I mean, regarding just the future and retirement, my parents have just their future and their goals regarding retirement. So that's something that they want to do on their own. Now, I will say, I don't know if it's the same way in American culture, but I know within Latino culture, especially being the oldest, you do step in for many things. And so I'll be real. We're gonna go into a vulnerable spot. Last year in January, I started therapy, and I remember that my therapist, we were having this conversation about my brother and my parents. And unconsciously, I had stepped into the motherly role within my siblings' life, and then even sometimes the parental role with my parents. And it's just because growing up, I was placed in that position many times in all aspects. And I had to quote unquote how many people will say, oh my goodness, you're so mature for your age. And I'm like, a 10-year-old should not be that mature.
Yeah.
But I had to mature for just many reasons. But I think within the culture, and that's something that I admire so much about the American culture, is like the child is the child. And I know that's many different cases, obviously, in different households. You know, I've spoken with American friends that are like, oh no, girl, like I had it different. But many of my American friends that I've encountered, they've been a child and they've been allowed to be a child and a teenager, and they're even in their young adult years through college, parents have helped out. I will be honest, within my household, even applying for college or figuring out about colleges or school, I've always had to do things on my own. My parents helped out as well, just the best that they could, but they didn't know much about the culture, about the requirements, about the steps. So it's things that I've had to do on my own. So definitely you step into that role in many ways unconsciously. And so when I figured that out last year, I've had to walk through that healing of taking those hats off. I'm not mom, I'm not wife, I'm not husband, I'm not parent, you know, I'm a sister and I'm a daughter, you know, and allowing God to guide me even through that as well, because unconsciously, I think it's just the culture. We take those hats on, especially being the oldest. So yeah.
Yeah. And I can say being the oldest that, yeah, like that's something that I think we just naturally take on just because we just kind of feel it's our responsibility in a way. And I definitely think kind of going to what you were talking about, like there's in American culture, like what y'all were talking about in terms of like parent or kids taking care of parents is a little bit more in terms of like decision making rather than finances.
Yeah.
Because you got to make the decision. Am I gonna put mom in a home? She's gonna kill me. Like decisions like that. Like example, like one of my friends, his grandma is, and I've known him for like 24 years. His grandma is like 99 years old, and she was working at Walmart up until she was like 97, just because she like wanted something to do, and she was a Greek immigrant too, and so she had a work ethic, but it was something she just wanted to do. It wasn't out of necessity or anything like that. But earlier this year, they had to make the decision of like, okay, like she's starting to like need a like cane or things like that, and so like none of us live up here in Chicago anymore, and so like if she falls, like we don't want to like have something happen, and so to Yaya's dismay, like they had to put her like in a like assisted living home just in case. And so it's like those decisions I think have to be made, not so much the finance part, and I think going to like the kids being kids part, like I think as we all can kind of see, there's positives and negatives to that, because obviously I mean I think we've extended adolescence a little bit too long, where a lot of what would it be, like 18 to 20, probably 26, maybe even up to like 28-year-olds are still trying to act like they're like only 18 or they're teenagers and things like that, because with how like health insurance is created, you can, if your parents are in a position, ride their health insurance until you're 26. And so from there, like you don't really have to get like focused in terms of work and things like that. And we're fine with people taking the 6 or 8 year path for college and things like that. And we've seen that glorified in movies and things like that. And so I think there is this proper part of it of allowing kids to be purely kids whenever they're in grade school and things like that. And being okay with them embracing this like childlike naivety that fosters possibilities and creativity and things like that. But then from there, whenever we extend it, like I think a lot of our culture is trying to do, like it can cause like just a lot of harm and things like that. And so I think kind of going back in line with maybe this question, we're talking about extending adolescence a little bit and some of the negative parts of American culture. And so what do you think are some of, in your reflection, some of the positive and negative parts of American culture? And then what do you think are some of the positive and negative parts of Colombian culture? And then naturally from there, I'll have a follow-up question, just like Josue.
Team follow-up questions.
Gosh, man, these are some deep questions. Yep. I love it. So, something that I have noticed being Colombian is I recall my senior year in high school, all my friends were obviously, applying to universities and excited to go away for college. And I remember like in our country, that's like, what? Like the dorm life and everything is like, huh? And so that was something completely new to me. And I was like, do I apply to universities? And I caught myself because I wanted to follow the trend of applying to universities because everybody else is doing it. So I guess this is an American thing to do, But I remember, of course, speaking with my mother, she was like, go to TCC, Tarrant County College, yes, sir. And just get your basics out the way and stay home. And I remember I was so bummed at first because I was like, man, all my friends are out there, and they're living the university life and going to school at university, and I'm out here at home. And at that same time, everybody was moving out. So I said, when I turn 18, I am moving out because in my mind, that was the American thing to do. And that's what I had seen. And all my friends, once they hit 18, it's like, I'm out. And so I told my mom that, and my mom was like, what? Okay, well, you want to be American? Go ahead and pack your stuff and go look for an apartment, whatever, if that's how you want to do it. But something that I didn't move out. Things did not line up how I had planned them to. But within our culture, the Colombian culture, we have, and it's completely normal. If you go to my country, like you can be 30 and living at home. And it's normal. It's okay. It's about family. It's about, this is family. We're all family. But I have had, and of course it's case by case. Every family is different. But I have had friends that once they turn 18, they're told like, hey, go off. You're 18. Go find yourself either an apartment or go off to school. So that's something that I've kind of now, obviously being 26, I look back and I'll look into, and I'm like, that's something that me wholeheartedly, I guess I can say it's something that I view as negative within the American culture, because to me, I'm like a child that at 18, you're still figuring yourself out in many ways. And so it's like, you still need your family, you still need that support. So I don't know, it's definitely a good topic to discuss from different perspectives to see that. But that's something definitely that I can say that I can view as something negative. And you asked about Colombian or something positive?
Yeah, just like positives and negatives of each of the cultures.
Of each culture. Definitely positive. As I shared earlier, I just love the fact of just the opportunities out here. I love the fact that I can say, for example, getting my degree in Christian ministries. Out there in my country, it's like, you're just going to be a pastor and that's it.
Yeah.
Out here, I can be called to either start a nonprofit, go teach, be a pastor, whatever the case may be. But the fact that there's so many opportunities, or you want to be a photographer, you want to be an artist. You know how many artist friends I have? And it's just so amazing. Go to Colombia and say that. Your parents will look at you like, excuse me, get your butt in school.
Yeah.
Or even if you have a degree, it's like, why aren't you pursuing the degree that, you graduated in? Why are you out there painting? Get back, go get a master's or something. So that's definitely something that I wholeheartedly appreciate. I appreciate the work ethic. I appreciate the fact that when an American person tells you I will be there at 8 a.m., they are there at 7:45, and I'm just like, oh Jesus, because being Latino, exactly. Yeah. So that's something that I for sure definitely appreciate, and just the love for the country. Man, the fact that Americans have such a patriotic heart. I love that, and the fact that not only like it's that gosh, you guys, I cannot say that word. That love towards subtitles there, the love towards the country, but also just the earth, like in the sense of, we love our land, but we protect our land as well. The resources for those that do not have financial means or resources such as, food banks, the homeless. We don't see that in my country. You do not see that. It's more like, let them do their thing. Nobody cares really for them. So the fact that here in the United States, there's just so much for just all of that, that's something that I definitely view as, being an immigrant, that's something I view as positive.
Yeah. Yeah. And filler question rather than the follow-up question, just because I love it. Because, one of the things with us, with Perspectives being a nonprofit, like we see the bulk of the responsibility of caring for those who are in need on those who either have the resources or these nonprofits who have specifically organized to do that, but as well, the church also, like that, the church should be the fundamental source for anyone who has need. This is my personal thought, like rather than the government. And I think that's something that our economic system shows as the rationale behind tax exempt organizations and tax charitable deductions and things like that. But so, I love it because I definitely think American culture has, whether it's just Christian culture or not, I'm not sure, but we do have a unique place for philanthropy. Now, are we meeting the potential that we have in that? I definitely think not. I don't want to talk about that dude Jeff Bezos, but that boy sitting on at least $100 billion, man. And so
time to pay for my loans.
He could he could be super charitable, even though I'm sure he already is.
Yeah.
But I love that you brought that up because I definitely think that's something that, for example, I saw a message with like Francis Chan and Ravi Zacharias talking about, specifically Ravi, like if it wasn't for an American missionary, I wouldn't have heard the gospel, and we wouldn't have had one of the greatest apologists to ever live. And so despite everything that we can improve on and things like that, there are these positive things that we can highlight and kind of go from there. And so to my follow-up question is, what do you think American and Colombian culture can learn from one another? For example, like one of the things I know Costa Rican culture is different than all the other Latin cultures. I feel like I saw this in Peru as well, though, is the pace of life down there is definitely a little bit more relaxed than here, which I think has the positives, whether it's stress levels, whether it's getting pissed off at traffic, like whether it's grace, a lot of those positive aspects. I don't know, totally random as you're thinking about it. Is Tika time a thing in Colombia, or is that just Costa Rica? Have you heard of that at all?
Tika time? Oh, yeah, I think that's Costa Rica only.
Okay, because that's something that they talk about a lot, being like 10, 15 minutes, like, oh, there's some Tika time. It's okay, but perfectly fine. And so, yeah, what do you think are some of those things that the cultures can learn from one another?
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So for sure, what you stated, in my country, it's definitely, I forgot the exact number, but my cousin gave it to me. I think it's 50 something, do not quote me, but this is how many holidays we have throughout the year. And so literally my mom's always saying like every other Monday is a holiday in Colombia. Everybody's off from work, you know? So they're resting. So they definitely, it's life is more, it's taken more as rest, as, you know, family before work, you know, it's rest, but rest before work. And so I definitely feel that that's something, because being here in America, I've noticed that I've taken on that busy lifestyle, that busy culture of just working, being busy. And when I went to Colombia, over there, they're so relaxed and much more like, hey, let's just, you know, live life. It's okay. Like, just relax, you know? So that's something definitely that I would say for that Americans, I guess, could learn from Colombians or the Colombian culture. And definitely, I would say the warmth. So I know, and you know what, I was thinking about this, and I would say that a hard transition for me earlier when you guys had asked me that question was, I've always been very extrovert and very loud and very spicy. That's just who I am. And without realizing, it was just, you know, the Colombian within me, the culture within me. And so I've always been like, man, my friends are so boring. Like, you know, like I want to go out and salsa and like, let's. And I was always like, man, like, what is it? Like, why are they? And the spontaneous aspect, like, man, let's get up, let's go, let's travel, let's go do something, let's go hang out with some friends. It's like, no, like, you know, boundaries or like, so, and I'm just like, where's the warmth? Like, you know, the embrace, la familia, you know? And I've realized, like, the Lord, yes. I'm like, wait, where am I going? The Lord has definitely, I was like, did that make sense? Yeah. The Lord has definitely united me with amazing sisters in Christ that are hardcore Latinas. A shout out to my Latina gang.
Shout out to you.
And at that moment, I realized, I was like, oh, it's the culture, you know, because when I'm with them, it's like, we're all spicy. We're all, you know, it's us. But then when I'm with my American friends, of course, I'm still myself, but I've realized the culture shock, the culture change. So definitely, I would say that warmth. And one thing that I could say Colombians can learn from Americans is definitely just the work ethic and the aspect of be on time, you know, keeping your word, the commitment, and also boundaries. That's something that I've noticed that Colombians suck at, like boundaries, you know, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whatever the case may be, like respect my space. And I feel like Colombian culture is very, no, like we all family here. You tell me your biz. And it's like, no, you know, respect that. So I definitely feel that that's something from the American culture as well. And the aspect of believing in dreams. If somebody says they want to be an artist, you cheer them on and you believe in them. Because that's what they've been called. That's what the Lord has laid on their heart. So I feel like in my country, a lot of people don't have that and don't have that opportunity because it's deemed upon as like, ugh. So definitely for sure, that's another thing that Colombians can for sure learn from the American culture.
Yeah, no, that was good. I don't know what noise that was you made a little bit earlier during the spicy thing. I was trying to do it myself, but my tongue doesn't roll like that with the R's. But no, that was good. That was good. Did you have any more follow-up questions?
No, man.
No? Okay.
You got anything to end?
No, I just wanted to thank you for, you know, coming and spending time with us, educating us a little bit more on the Colombian culture. You know, a lot of things that we probably wouldn't have thought of because, you know, unless it's something that's kind of just before you or you have some Colombian friends, you know, within your circle, you probably wouldn't have known or cared to know. I mean, if we're being realistic, you know, so thank you for taking the time to kind of just express some of these things and sharing your story as well. You know, I feel like I learned a lot. Yeah,
it was definitely a lot of fun learning about it. And so do you have any last words of encouragement or anything like that, either you'd like to share to the listeners in general or anyone who may be listening that is also like a first-generation American?
Oh, that's awesome. First generation. I love that. Definitely embrace who you are. Embrace your culture because that's definitely God shining through you. It's just to me, it's just an aspect of his creativity in all aspects, whether it's our physical looks and even the culture that we carry. So that for sure. And also just shout out to my amazing country. I love Colombia. If you ever get a chance to visit, like, we're amazing people. We're thebomb.com. Our country is gorgeous. Our people are amazing. And our food is thebomb.com. So if you ever get the chance to. And Cali, Colombia, that's my city. So for sure, definitely so.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah,
I love it. So thank you guys for giving me this opportunity to just share a little piece of me and, you know.
Your first podcast, I'm glad that it went pretty well. Pretty relaxed. We were not too aggressive. So
not at all.
Really it was so good.
Yeah.
But that'll be a wrap for us today. So thank y'all so much for listening. We will be linking all of Stephania's information in the description if you want to go support her, ask her any questions about Colombian cuisine or anything like that. As well, all of our information will be down in the description. So if you'd like to support our work and mission here at Perspectives, you'll be able to do that there. And as always, if you liked this week's episode, please subscribe, share, leave us a review, just whatever y'all want to do. So until next time, much love. God bless.